the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
You know, every so often here on the Paracast, we answer the critics. Now, I know one particular critic who actually posted a message in iTunes complaining that we dared to respond to critics. Now, I don't know about you, but where is it written that we can't answer to people who object to what we do and how we do it? What do you think, Chris? Should we not talk about the critics?
Well, I mean, come on. You know, if people want to complain or, you know, even have constructive criticism, I mean, I think it's beholden to us to respond to it and address that.
Of course, the common criticism is that we have too many commercials, but that applies to all commercial radio shows. You know, we have a fixed amount of commercials. It consumes about 25 or 26% of the content of the show. Same is true for all commercial talk shows in the United States. And as a matter of fact, for TV shows, which even offer more commercials. So your 1 hour TV drama takes 43 minutes. Is there any other way to work it out? I suppose as TV and radio mature, as radio moves more and more online, we'll find better ways, but that's the way the system works now. We can't say we like all the commercials, but about 9 minutes of those commercials are our own. What that means is if you find an announcement for a product or service that we are advertising, we'd like you to consider it, because what that means is income to the show, or we get to sell some of our own stuff. So I don't think anything's wrong with that. There has been talk of a premium ad-free version. I can't say it's going to happen. I know other shows do it, but I have been talking to the network, and let's just say the door is not closed to the idea. But if you're saying that we break for commercials every 5 minutes and we have 6 minutes of commercials, that's exaggerated. There you go. I will not respond or ask Chris to respond to the problem where they attack his character or they say that he speaks with chewing tobacco in his mouth or something. Or is it a bagel? Is it a bagel? You know, if you're eating a bagel, it's hard to talk because bagels are so thick, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, what can I say? I'm, you know, doing the best I can. I've never claimed to be a smooth professional broadcaster like Eugene. I'm more of the color commentary kind of guy. And as long as you can hear what I'm saying, and understand, you know, the meaning behind my words, I don't think there should be any problems with that. If there are, I don't know, recommend a speech therapist or something.
You know, when I went to broadcasting school, which has got to be over 40 years ago, we had voice exercises where we would sit there and read aloud all sorts of tongue twisters and things. So imagine me sitting here doing absolutely nothing but reading classic tongue twisters like She Sells Seashells Down by the Seashore, Susie's Sister Sewed Socks for Soldiers. That's why I keep this around, by the way. So if my tang gets tangled, I have an out.
Well, again, I think content is way more important than form. And that's why so many podcasts out there that may not have the production quality and production values and, you know, the trained voiceover personnel, but they have good guests. That's they become popular and people listen to them because they're more interested in the guest and the content than they are in the delivery. Although I must say, Gene, you and I do have a reputation of being up to speed on the subjects that, you know, our guests are expert in or aspiring experts in. And, you know, I've always taken it as my challenge to come up with something that challenges the guests and maybe gives them information that they didn't know beforehand. So, I mean, I always kind of look at that as my role of being as up to speed in these subject areas as possible.
You know, one other criticism they make is that we give our own opinions. Well, you know, this is not the kind of show where we just sit back and say, okay, tell me something. If we have an opinion, we will express it.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with it or not. If you don't like it, well, there are other radio shows where the host will simply ask a few dumb questions, sit back, have a banana, and listen to the response. Or maybe listen to the response. It's like the classic joke you say about lame talk show hosts where someone says, okay, what did you do yesterday? And the guest says, well, I am a serial killer. I killed 12 people. And then the host says, do you have any hobbies?
Well, with the release of my new book, I've done quite a number of radio shows and podcasts over the last 2 months. And the ones that always get me are the ones that, ask, could you send us like a list of a dozen or so questions that we can ask you? And it's like, it's their job to be up to speed in the subject matter that, their guests are involved with. And, to me, that's a lazy way of attempting to, get information out to their listening audience. We never ask anybody to send us questions to ask our guests. I don't know.
Well, I know with one or two of our guests where they had major publicists, like they wrote a book for a large publishing company, you would get a press release where they would give suggested questions.
Yeah.
And I pride myself with never, ever reading them.
Yeah.
I ask my own questions for better or worse. Another criticism, that we constantly attack other talk show hosts. Now, I don't know about you. I think the worst we've said is some are lazy. But we don't name them. All right, we named George Norrie of Coast to Coast because that's the #1 show. But we're not attacking George Norrie as a person. I gather he's a very nice guy. I'm sure Chris and I would sit back at our favorite Middle East restaurant and enjoy some kebab with him or something.
Yeah. No, George he's a sweet guy. He really is. And he's quite a singer too, from what I've heard.
Oh?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. If George sends us one of his songs, maybe we'll play it. As long as we have permission to air it, sure. Well, you can sing, Chris.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
You're a musician and everything. You're a rock and roller. Excuse me, let me use the right voice. You're a rock and roller. They'll now get me for doing bad imitations. But let me say this. The one thing I could say about that is both the late Wolfman Jack, whose real name is Bob Smith, and Gene Steinberg were both born in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
But he made about 10,000 times more money than I did. Except I'm still here. He's gone.
Yeah.
There you go. So that's the criticisms. Now, I'm going to play this little recording, which Chris is aware of, where I respond to the criticisms.
You're a lying sack of crap. You're a lying sack of crap. You're a lying, scheming, stinking, nasty sack of liquid crap.
Okay.
With apologies, ladies and gentlemen, to Stephanie Miller, a talk show host who featured and or created that sound effect. We've had such a run of great guests. It's almost impossible to top them from one week to the next, but we're going to do it. This week, we're going to feature Ted Roe, and he's associated with an organization called the National Aviation Reporting Center on Anomalous Phenomena, or NARCAP. Now, some years back, we featured his associate there, Dr. Richard Haines, their chief scientist. And this is an organization that is devoted to scientific exploration of what they call unidentified aerial phenomena. Now, that's their term for UFOs, and we're going to ask Ted to explain how that works out. We're going to talk about their best cases and maybe learn a bit more about what he thinks UAP may in fact be. This is going to be a tremendous show. We've been in touch with Ted for a number of years. Occasionally, he posts message in our forums at forum.theparacast.com. Our listeners have also been there asking some really interesting questions. And this also means that if you have a question, all you have to do is go to forum.theparacast.com, look for the board entitled The Question Bank, where we set up a topic or thread for an upcoming guest. There's going to be a lot of solid information here, not speculation, information. Our guest, once again, coming up next, Ted Roe of NARCAP. With Gina and Chris, you're in
The Paracast.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on our distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and the Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
So here's what happened. I was placing an order online. The site went down. It took hours before it returned, but I'd already placed the order with another company. If your site goes down, you could lose business. And if you have a business or personal site, you'll want to know it's easy to run and it will stay online. At iWeb, your site is hosted on one of the most reliable networks in the world. Talk to a sales rep at iWeb.com. Use the promo code TechNightOwl for a special discount.
Mike Stenerson for Midas Resources. At no time in history have precious metals been more important, certainly not in my 22 years in the industry. The dollar has lost over 90% of its value in the last 60 years. No fiat currency has ever survived the government printing presses. Ours is not immune. The time is now to be proactive. 1-800-686-2237, extension 116. Anything tied to the dollar is at risk. CDs, annuities, 401ks, IRAs, stocks, bonds, you name it, so decide. Do you want to leave a legacy of wealth or debt for your family? The choice is yours. Call me at 1-800-686-2237, extension 116. That's 1-800-686-2237, extension 116. Be proactive, not reactive. Call 1-800-686-2237, extension 116.
For over 5 years, you've been hearing about the Berkey guy, so you may know a few things about him. For example, you are well aware of the superior quality and effectiveness of Berkey water filters and accessories. But did you know the Berkeys have had independent lab tests done to prove just how effective they are? It's true, and he can email you the test results. Just visit goberkey.com. You may also know that the Berkey guy has helped tens of thousands of people get better prepared. Now here's something you may not know. GoBerkey.com has amazing specials and deals all the time on a wide variety of survival and preparedness products. Most ready to ship same day. Visit the Berkey Guy at GoBerkey.com and be sure to click the red Products on Sale Now button. You can always call toll-free 877-886-3653. Again, that's 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com, home of the Berkey Guy.
Question: could too many GMO foods and toxins be overloading your digestive and immune systems? Answer: yes. If you're searching for a powerful detox that's gentle enough to use every day, use Pro EM1 from Terraganics. Pro EM1 is a powerful liquid probiotic that uses good bacteria to suppress pathogens and gently eliminate toxins from your body. A healthy digestive system will cleanse and remove toxins, support weight loss, improve absorption of food nutrients, and aid in controlling yeast and other infections. Pro EM1 is made with only non-GMO and certified organic ingredients, has no preservatives, and is dairy, soy, wheat, and gluten-free. Pro EM1 is the key to your digestive health. Order Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse at Terraganics.com, spelled Terraganix.com, or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Also available through Amazon Prime. Pro EM1 from Terraganics. Life's getting better.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
This week on the Paracast, we welcome Ted Roe of NARCAP to the Paracast. Now, some years back, as our listeners recall, we had Dr. Richard Haines, who Ted works with over at NARCAP, and he presented a lot of fascinating information. But for those listeners who haven't heard us present discussions about NARCAP or are not familiar with the organization because you don't have a reality TV show based on NARCAP as you do with like MUFON, Ted, welcome to the show. Can you tell our listeners about the organization? How was it established and why?
Aloha, Gene, and hello to your listeners. Yes, we were established in 1999 after a number of conversations between Dr. Haines and myself to address aviation safety factors that seem to crop up in some aviation-related UFO encounters. At the time, we felt that the term UFO was a bit limiting and inaccurate, so we adopted a term that's more common in the international research community, which would be unidentified aerial phenomena. The Chilean team uses anomalous aerial phenomena. French use rare atmospheric phenomena. So we tried to choose a term that was more accurate. And then we have subheadings: unidentified aerial phenomena / light, unidentified aerial phenomena / object, or UFO. So
now, therefore, unidentified aerial phenomena is not specifically an equivalent of UFO.
Well, it's not specifically an equivalent of an alien spaceship, let's put it that way. It remains unidentified after examination of adequate data by people who are qualified to make an analysis. So if you have enough information to identify it and it still remains unidentified by people who know what they're doing, then you have a UAP.
Okay, but you're not prepared to say that's ET.
Well, it's a very difficult line to walk there because some cases are clearly provocative, but we're always missing certain key information that would allow us to make that statement. If we didn't see it come from space or see it leave to space, then we can't be certain it came from space originally. For example, if you see something hovering over a tree that's unusual, sure, it's unusual. You document everything you can, but what you can't do is document what's going on inside it or where it came from, what its intentions are, etc. So it's difficult in that way to make a definitive statement.
All right, this is a big discussion here because, as you know, a lot of the people in UFO field believe that UFOs are extraterrestrial. I always argue it's a process of elimination on their part. They say, well, it doesn't seem to be conventional, therefore it's got to come from out there. But you're taking a far more nuanced look at this thing, which to me, as a matter of fact, is probably closer to the viewpoint that we here on the Paracast take.
Well, nuance is the key here. There are probably natural phenomena that account for some UAP reports. And until we can weed them out, learn what they are, give them a name, identify them, and move them away from the collective description of UAP, until we can weed it out and get down to the fine points, we can't be certain what it is we're looking at. Not all UAP, not all unidentified aerial phenomena are technical in nature, or have technical attributes. Let's put it that way. And some of them, there are some ideas around what's called extreme ball lightning, for example, which are large, slow-moving, bright balls of light with whopping potential in them that could just evaporate an aircraft if it struck them. And they're not under intelligent control, and there's no reason to believe that they'll get out of the way if you see one in your path. And pilots aren't really advised that such things exist. And until we can sort those out from the larger data set, we can't be sure what all people are seeing out there, except in the most obvious cases and taking them at face value.
Let's focus further on the things you're doing. But just let me mention parenthetically here, APRO, which had a lot of ties to Latin American cases, they would call it unidentified aerial object as opposed to phenomena. And I guess the distinction being here is you're looking at all sorts of things that are not explained, but they can't quite be put in the category of an object.
Right. I mean, if you see a ball of light, you don't know if it's masking an object or if it's just a complete 360 energetic radiator with no mass in the middle of it. There's a lot of basic questions here. Earth lights, for example, it's a common manifestation to see orange balls of light. I've seen them myself at a site in Southwest U.S. where they manifest. And pilots report orange balls of light at altitude. And are they the same phenomena? And how do we know? And can we be certain? And. If you really want to understand what's going on here, you realize it is nuanced, and it's going to take time. It's going to take time and a lot of work to resolve these cases.
So let me ask you here very briefly, and we'll get into this in more detail in our other segments. We have some people in the UFO field who not only maintain that UFOs must be ET, and I'm separating the term UFO from UAP because it's not the term they use. They say we're being visited by spaceships. Further, that the governments of Earth, particularly the U.S. government, have guilty knowledge of this. and therefore we should urge them to disclose what they know. Is that a cop-out?
Well, it's another track. I think that in 60 years of trying to persuade governments that are believed to be withholding information to talk about it, it hasn't been terribly successful. They've put their cases out there, but if they've done any extracurricular work on it, we're not aware of it. I don't think it's a cop-out, really, but I think that they bring belief systems with them when they carry these ideas. And if they haven't adequately proved it, their assertions are hard on those of us who are actually doing the science. It hurts our credibility. When we go to try to talk to representatives of government, for example, and we want to convince them that we have research that indicates that we should be looking more closely at these phenomena, and others have come before with more airy-fairy kind of ideas, less credible ideas. We tend to get lumped in with them, no matter how careful we are, and it doesn't help us. So I don't really know how effective these drives at government are in terms of making change on this subject. In my experience, most government officials are as ignorant on this subject as everybody else is.
Let's talk a little bit more about NARCAP and more about the history. It came together in 1999. How did you set things up, and more about how you do the things that you do, and also about maybe some of the most significant case histories you've accumulated, so we get a sense of the kind of evidence that you've looked at, and maybe also some of the stuff that didn't pass muster and why. And we'll get into that more as we progress with this week's episode. Our guest is Ted Roe. The organization is NARCAP. And if you go to narcap.org, you'll find more about the organization and its mission. You're on with Gene and Chris. You're in
The Paracast.
We are the premier independent talk radio network, the Genesis Communications Network, GCN.
Is there a secret UFO agenda? Do strange creatures from the darkest corners of the mind roam the earth? Is there evidence for mind control, time travel, or devious government conspiracies? Find out the inside scoop on the latest conspiracies, paranormal activity, and Fortean phenomena when you subscribe to Tim Beckley's Conspiracy Journal. It's jam-packed with stories, special book and DVD promotions, and the best news, it's absolutely free, sent right to your mailbox. Plus, a bonus free email newsletter sent out every Friday. Simply send an email with your name and address to Mr. UFO at webtv.net. That's Mr. UFO at webtv.net. Find out what they don't want you to know.
I will never forget the day my son Jeremy told me he hated me and slammed the door in my face. I'm behavioral therapist Janet Lehman. Behavior problems can turn the child you love and your life into a nightmare. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, the step-by-step program that shows you how to fix the worst behavior problems and get your child to respect and listen to you again. No matter what the behavior, defiance, backtalk, angry outbursts, disrespect, we can help you stop it. Now you can get the Total Transformation for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. You can keep it forever for free.
Limited number of free programs available. Call now. 1-888-912-1595. 1-888-912-1595. That's 1-888-912-1595. 1-888-912-1595.
What good is a Big Berkey water filter?
We get that question a lot here at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com, and in a word, the answer is protection. protection from water main breaks, E. coli contamination, environmental chemical spills, pesticide runoff, chlorine taste and smell, and all forms of fluoride. Plus, Big Berkey water filters are the original gravity water filter system and most trusted on the market for a reason. Tested by multiple independent NSF EPA certified labs, they are the gold standard in water purification. At only 1.7 cents a gallon, a single set of filters can last for 5 to 10 years. That means big savings. Big Berkey, the one that's powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water. Get a Big Berkey today at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. GCN listeners receive 5% off all ceramic filter systems. Visit our website or call 1-877-99-BERKEY. That's 877-99-BERKEY. Big Berkey Water Filters, for the love of clean water.
This alert just came in. This special announcement is for business owners and leaders of organizations who've been waiting for the right time to build. General Steel has made it impossible to wait any longer with rock-bottom prices that could save you thousands. That's right, General Steel, America's leader in pre-engineered structures, is offering buildings at prices you will never see again. Don't miss these prices. A 50 by 100 for $35,000. You heard right. That's 5,000 square feet for $35,000. Manufacturers, if you need a larger building, try a 100 by 100 commercial building for $129,000. You can't afford to rent with these prices. Imagine a 70 by 100-foot church building for under $69,000. With the economy improving and interest rates still at historic lows, you can't afford to wait. So call 866-91-STEEL. Lock in your price now. Call 866-91-STEEL. That's 866-917-8335.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
We have Ted Roe from NARCAP, and this is an organization that obviously has a heavily scientific bent. So let's start from the beginning there. We kind of went away from it, that you were founded in 1999. How did you set this up, and how do you continue your focus?
Well, I met Dr. Haines kind of under interesting circumstances. I had a UAP encounter of my own. Actually, I was a layperson and pretty familiar with the UFO community. I'd spent 10 years studying it, trying to make sense of things that I had seen and experienced myself. And I ended up making a report to the NASA PR office at Ames Research Center, and Dr. Haines got back to me. And in the course of going through that investigative process and sharing that information and learning a bit about UFO research, we came to be friends. And he eventually came to me with an idea he had for a International Aviation Reporting Center. He had felt that a lot of aviation cases had aviation safety factors that were being overlooked by the aviation community. And that he thought that championing those ideas might help reveal a little bit of information about the UFO problem. And I agreed with him. It seemed to me one of the more relevant approaches. So we got to talking about how to get it set up. He had many contacts and friends of his own to man the research side of things. And I had plenty of experience in administration, so I sort of took over the image management and internal processes of the organization itself. And between us, we built it into about 55 more or less members, technical specialists, research associates, international specialists, etc. In 2010, I started getting emails from Chilean Air Force generals, and the result of that was a written agreement of collaboration and research agreement with the Chilean government, and we've helped them on a number of cases since. Our contacts in France are strong, so our relationship with GPAN is pretty good, although it's not official. We're presenting at one of their closed symposiums here in a month. So our star just rose by sticking to the rules as far as science goes, just sticking to the basics of what we were trying to do and not extrapolating our data very far. That's not to say that some of these cases aren't provocative. I think they need to be looked at they need to be looked at much more closely. And as far as the idea of extraterrestrial incursions, we can't rule it out. A careful look at the U.S. Air Force studies, the Battelle Institute Special Report 14 was pretty clear that what the Air Force was claiming outwardly and what their data was showing were two different things, and that some of these unidentifieds are very provocative and need to be resolved. So how you go about doing that, it's a big subject.
Yeah, and we obviously we want to get into that subject and also discuss some of the cases that you're working on with the Chilean officials. But Ted, you kind of mentioned something there at the onset about your own personal experiences that helped kind of jumpstart your interest in this subject. Why don't you describe some of your own personal experiences that you've had with UAPs and give our listeners a sense of how you were motivated to get involved in such an extensive manner.
Well, it's a personal story and kind of convoluted. I've trended towards keeping it out of the media for the last 15 years, but I don't mind sharing it with you guys in general. Over the course of my life, I've been exposed to UAP of the kind that everybody is most concerned about, probably a dozen times for the most part. Sometimes at very close quarters. I don't really understand why or what it's about, but it's provocative and it's disturbing. And in 1991, I believe it was 91, I was watching CNN, and General Wilfred de Brouwer from NATO Command in Belgium was asking the world who these aircraft that his Air Force was chasing around the country belonged to, with these unusual flight characteristics. And it kind of sparked my memories of the family seeing these things and having to deal with the fallout of it. We all kind of just smoothed it over and didn't talk about it really, but it was more than one time, and then I had several of them, and I'd just kind of forgotten about them. But that triggered something, and so I started reading and studying, and then next thing you know, I'm having a cluster of these experiences again, and I report them, and I end up, one of the people I'd been studying was Dr. Haines, and out of the woodwork, here he comes, and we had a meeting in 2008, I believe it was, in San Jose, and who was present but former Major General Wilfred de Brouwer. So it's been a very strange experience. The UAP that I've seen of the technical type involves spheres and discs and cylinders, and then I've been out in the desert and seen what are called earth lights and other types of poorly understood phenomena as well. So I've been exposed to all of it. I don't have any answers about any of it, other than I listen very carefully when somebody says they've seen something. I know how strange it can be.
Now, what you're telling us here is very, very general, that you had sightings of all sorts of things, cylinders, things like that in the sky. Can you give us more details on any particular case that just stands out? This is the most incredible one I had.
I can offer one for you. I was standing on my deck on this drive in Orinda, California, which overlooks the freeway about a quarter mile below. And I caught some movement out of the corner of my eye, and I looked to my left, and I saw a black round sphere moving up the ridge line towards the house. And it came to a stop about 50 feet in front of me, out in front of over the deck. There was a guy down below mowing his lawn, and I yelled at him. He looked up, and I pointed at it. And he looked at it too, and we both stood there and watched it. And then it just kind of retreated away from me and then went over the opposite ridge line and disappeared. Very close, no idea why. Like I said, maybe 12 times in my entire life. I'm 54 years old. It probably all adds up to maybe 10, 12 minutes of experience direct. And very, very few answers. And I'm not terribly satisfied with ufology's engagement of it. So I've tried to just hold to my own standards on this. I'm a hard point on the spear in terms of listening to our reporters. I advocate for them, and I'm careful in doing it. That was one example. The one that got me in contact with Dr. Haines was a bit more puzzling. It was a very close approach by a large cylindrical object that with very unusual attributes, and it parked itself in front of our car as we were driving down the road, less than its own length from our windshield, and that lasted for a bit. It was very uncomfortable, and for months afterwards, I wasn't able to explain it adequately. So I wrote a terse little note, little couple of sentences to the PR office at Ames Research Center, asking if anybody was interested in knowing anything about this. I wanted to talk to somebody. Dr. Haines got back to me. We worked on it from there. Again, I have nothing but empathy for people who experience these things. I advise them all to be very careful with what they do with their minds around these things. The urge to think that you're special or different it can be overwhelming and may not be correct and may not serve you. So there's a lot of considerations around all this. I just ask people not to hand their minds over to somebody else. If they don't know the answer, live with the I don't know. Be satisfied with that until you can get an answer that you can depend on. Don't just adopt them.
So don't just assume there's an answer and that someone else has the answer, because you might find yourself barking up the wrong tree. Ted Roe is Executive Director of NARCAP. This is Gene with Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
We are America's largest independently owned communications network, GCN.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors, classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
Hey everyone, have you heard about the No hair removal device that's sweeping the globe? If you want to go weeks without shaving and get smooth, professional quality results, here's our favorite host, Cheryl, for No hair removal.
Thanks. Hey gals, I love talking about my No. It's this cute little hair removal system that you can take with you and use almost anywhere at home or on the road. No more expensive in-office treatments, painful waxing, and no more wasting your valuable time. Got unwanted facial hair? No has patented thermocon technology that works on all hair and skin colors, so it's perfect for using on all body parts. And now you can take advantage of this incredible risk-free trial. Get the No, the facial kit, a travel case, and a $100 discount shopping card, and you don't risk a penny to try it. Try the incredible No hair completely risk-free. Call 1-800-953-6062. That's 800-953-6062. 800-953-6062.
At 30dayfoodsupply.com, you can now purchase a one-of-a-kind product not available anywhere else. A meatless burger dry mix in 4 delicious flavors. With our new Oregon Trail Foods vegan burgers, all you do is add water and fry. They need no refrigeration. They're packaged in Mylar bags with an oxygen absorber for a long shelf life. They're non-GMO. They're gluten, soy, nut, and chemical-free, but they're loaded with flavor. And a good source of carbs and protein, yet low in sodium. Flavors include Italian, spicy Mexican, 6 vegetable, and black bean olive. Go to 30dayfoodsupply.com or call 541-229-0010 and order today. Eat them every day, take them camping, or save them for an emergency. Check them out at 30dayfoodsupply.com and click on the vegan burger icon. That's 30dayfoodsupply.com, where all of our products are produced in Oregon by Oregon Trail Foods. 30dayfoodsupply.com.
Ouch! My back is out again.
Hi, Dr. Ortman with Wellspring Spinal Care. If you're experiencing neck, mid, or lower back pain, this information is for you. One of the complaints that I hear is patients receive their typical adjustment, only having to repeat them as the pain returns. Putting the bones back in place is only half of the battle. At Wellspring Spinal Care, we have the entire solution. We use the NUCA approach, utilizing three-dimensional x-rays and gentle touch technology to deliver specific correction. We then design a custom nutritional supplement program which provides essential nutrients targeting the areas of concern. With a NUCA approach and proper nutrition, you'll be on your way to a faster and more permanent recovery. To get you on the road to wellness, visit drortman.com. That's drortman.com, or call us today, 952-303-9124. That's 952-303-9124. Wellspring Spinal Care, chiropractic done right.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
Gene and Chris in the Paracast. We're talking to Ted Roe, Executive Director of NARCAP, and we're focusing on his personal experiences. Briefly speaking, people will want to know, can you tell us what's your day job?
Well, I along with NARCAP, I teach freediving here in Hawaii, breath hold diver teacher. I used to be I used to work in offices, project management type stuff on the main. Once the economy collapsed, I stepped over here to do that. I also teach martial arts and am preparing to a course for the local Soto Daifukuji Zen temple here. So I'll be teaching out of that shortly.
So basically speaking here, let's not get on your bad side.
I try not to have a bad side. I'm pretty open to everybody. I'm not going to embrace what everybody thinks, but they can think what they want to.
Let me look at your sightings here. Now, the key about it here is that from what you tell me, this phenomena does show evidence of intelligent control, right?
There are profiles of UAP that seem to do that. They seem to be technical manifestations. I don't know whose, but they have technical qualities to them. And if you can describe their behaviors, you would try to apply attributes of intelligence. Yes.
I'm thinking specifically of the things you saw.
Yeah. My personal experiences, I think some of those are technical manifestations. I think others, I'm not. The jury's out on.
Okay, so having seen things that show evidence of intelligent control, unknown aerial phenomena showing intelligent control, obviously you have cases on file at NARCAP of things also indicating some sort of intelligent control. So it follows then, what sort of intelligence are we talking about?
Well, yes, that would be in the next round of questions, I suppose. There's a lot to be done in terms of just teasing these profiles apart and understanding them. One of the efforts we undertook at NARCAP was called Project Sphere, and it was a case study of UAP that present as spherical lights or objects. And so we took one category, one profile, and we examined it. And we examined the scope of these manifestations, how big they are, the altitudes they manifest at, whether they have dynamic trajectories or not, and so on, what we would call their behaviors per se. And that needs to be done for every profile of UAP, and it just hasn't been done yet. We need to do that for those that are reported as disc-shaped objects, those that are reported as cylinders, and so on. And we really need to, as you mentioned earlier, look at the nuance. And then we can come to some kind of conclusions in terms of just what it is we're looking at. The flip side of the problem, though, Gene, is the extraterrestrial hypothesis and the concern that if any one of these things is a manifestation of an extraterrestrial incursion, we as humanity cannot afford to be missing this if it's happening. It could be very toxic and very dangerous. It's an incursion until we can determine whether it's benign or benevolent or not. And as an incursion, it's a security risk. And I don't think humanity is at all prepared to deal with what that means, or to even be able to detect it accurately or correctly. Everything science tells us at this point is that we live in a populated universe. And chances are very good that those that populate that universe are much older than we are and much more capable. So we need to have an open mind and open eyes, and we need to be looking at these phenomena carefully and making sure that we know what they are and what they're not. And making good judgment calls based on that information. And I just don't think the infrastructure is in place yet. I don't think that the powers that are focused properly as they should be on what this is and what it means. And that's assuming that there's no shadow government and you're not buying into the conspiracies.
You're not going that far as to suggest that there's a shadow government or some kind of black project that's aware of what's going on in terms of unidentified phenomena?
There are certain clues in the history of the examination of the phenomena that cause us to suspect certain things. 1952, 53, and 54 were kind of watershed years where the government and the military went from a positive relationship with the general public around the subject to a dismissive and closed approach to the topic. And I'm not sure what was disclosed in those years. I do know that there were certain events that would be considered provocative. The manifestations over Washington, D.C. in 52, for example. But then we had the Robertson panel in 53.
I was just going to say the Robertson panel had a lot to do with the change.
Exactly. And academia has embraced those recommendations wholeheartedly. Whether that adds up to a shadow government or bad judgment or whatever it is, I don't know. There are probably other historians, Richard Dolan and others, that might have a better take on that. But just assuming that all is as it's been laid on the table, then I would say that Earth is not prepared. Earth could not protect itself from alien incursions, and the fallout that we face even from potentially benign incursions would be massive and difficult for our culture to manage. And I don't really think it's been well thought out by anybody, just what that means if we find ourselves detecting these ET incursions as thousands of people tell us every year they're seeing.
Well, that brings something to mind that has always puzzled me, and that is the possibility of a sizable percentage of these unknowns could possibly be some sort of exotic earthbound technology that's being tested and possibly being made operational, that is then cited by pilots, spotted by witnesses. And, of course, the automatic assumption is that these are off-planet intelligences operating with impunity within our airspace. Have you guys seen in your database an increase in sighting events that may be these types of black projects, let's say exotic aerial technology?
It's probable that some of the profiles in our databases are representative of black projects of one kind or another. Whenever we think we might be looking at something like that, we withdraw from it. We have an obligation to respect the government, respect our security, and not dig into things that are easily or that the world shouldn't really know about. And we don't have a lot of cases like that. I mean, most of the cases that we see fit the Hynek standard of high strangeness. They fall into that general category. But like I said, if we thought we were dealing with anything that was national security oriented, we would drop it like a hot potato. We do have problems as drones and other types of aircraft are operating in U.S. airspace with reports that represent things that people hadn't seen before and are a challenge to us to weed out of the overall data. And we recently did a study examining drone activity and asking ourselves whether we could determine drones from UAP and how we might do that. So it's a concern.
Well, that raises a very big question here, which is the guilty knowledge on the part of the government. I mean, this stuff has been going on at least since 1947, 67 years, and possibly for many years before that. So I'm going to ask you, we're going to have to break in a little over a minute so we can start the answer here and pick it up in our next segment. And that is, do you have any suspicion of what sort of guilty knowledge the governments really have about what's going on?
Well, yes. To a point, I mean, the U.S. Air Force was founded in September of 1947 with early marching orders to acquire intelligence information on flying discs and so on. And that was based on a lot of information that had been acquired prior to that by the military. I think the phenomenon has been around all along. The reports increased as we fielded a global army with central reporting. And you see the bell curve go up in the mid-40s as we move out into the world. So to a point, I would say, yes, there is some guilty knowledge there. Somebody knows something or suspects something, but again, it's hard to tell how deep that goes. We've seen how incompetent government can be. So I have to wonder about how competent they would be with something so big.
So basically here, it may be they're so incompetent they couldn't even recognize the existence of something strange if it was staring at them in the face. I'll ask more questions about this, me and Chris. In our next segment, we have Ted Roe of NARCAP with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
A little right, a little left, but always independent-minded. The Genesis Communications Network, GCN.
Henry Ford once said, "A man who stops advertising to save money is like a man who stops a clock to save time." Alex Castle here, the National Account Executive at GCN. I have the ability to customize a national radio campaign based on your budget while targeting your demographic. Contact me to find out how national radio can help your business be more profitable at 877-996-4327, extension 177. That's 877-996-4327, extension 177, and help me help you bring your business to the next level.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
Americans have always been ready to defend, to serve, and to honor those who defended and are defending all of us. So this month, the Freeze Dry Guy honors and serves Americans with our meat, rice, and potato sale. Our unit includes 4 number 10 cans of quality Mountain House cooked diced beef, ground beef, diced chicken, white rice, and 2 cans of FDG dehydrated diced potatoes. 158 servings per case unit. And during the Freeze Dry Guy's meat, rice, and potato sale, get 1 case for only $1.79, 2 cases for only $3.55, or get 3 cases for only $5.15. And all come with lots of valuable freebies. For details, click freezedryguy.com and hurry. Sale ends soon. Go to freezedryguy.com or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD. Plus free shipping to the lower 48 states from the Freeze Dry Guy. The finest freeze-dried and dehydrated foods available anywhere for long-term storage.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
On the Paracast with Gene and Chris, Ted Roe, the Executive Director of NARCAP, joins us. And we got so much to discuss. So obviously we can see where the government can sometimes do things right, and when it comes to the VA, do things very wrong. So is there the suspicion here that the U.S. government particularly is not competent enough to recognize the existence of something really strange, really significant out there?
Well, it might be, but it could also suffocate any dialogue about it in its own ranks. For example, we have these UFO research teams in France and in Chile which are mandated to study these things and to provide information to their public, and they're tolerated within their government, but their recommendations and their studies and so on don't carry a lot of weight. So when we have the same kind of problem here, where these things are seen, and it's probable that the military had quite a lot of activity around it. My father was involved in a UFO pursuit squadron of refitted Sabre jets out of El Toro back in the mid 50s, I think it was. And he said they never found anything, but it was run by the Air Force out of Marine Air Force Base, or a Marine Air Base.
They were tasked with actually chasing after UFOs?
Right. They had refitted Sabre jets into two-seaters with a radar operator in the back. And my dad was fresh out of air traffic control school in the Marine Corps. They were grabbing radar operators out of that to fly on these sorties against unidentifieds when they thought they had them.
So they took them real seriously then.
Well, certainly. And Air Force bases into the 60s and 70s every one of them had a UFO officer, somebody who was tasked with dealing with UFO on the bases. And when there were encounters with UAP, they would crate up the aircraft itself and ship it off to God knows where, and along with all relevant reporting. So, there's been an interest in this all along. But my concern is that really the focus has been sort of moved out of government into private industry. And if anybody's calling any shots in this area, it's probably in the contractors that provide the sensing platforms for the government and operate them on contract for the government. They're the ones that probably detect these things and see what's going on. They're more likely, I would think, to be in the know on these matters than even the government itself might be, although certain military aspects are probably clued in, and certain intelligence aspects were probably aware as well. This is all speculation, but it seems there's a rich history of government interest in this subject, and hasn't been very forthcoming about it. So we're left to speculate.
The implication being here, they've outsourced UFO research.
They could very well have, and not necessarily done it voluntarily.
How so not voluntarily?
Well, the corporations are very powerful. Eisenhower warned us of the military-industrial complex actually outweighing national interest, and that the issue of having control over our futures is jeopardized by corporate domination. And it wouldn't surprise me at all that those who are tasked with building these black projects for the government at some point could have gained control over the information itself.
Right, and that would be out of the reach of freedom of information requests and any sort of attempt by the private sector to try to gain information from proprietary companies that have no obligation to supply that information, answers to questions, that sort of thing. So it would make sense to me. That's a great way to keep it as out of reach and compartmentalized as possible.
Absolutely. And then there's another way to look at it too. If it was decided amongst the intelligence community that there was truly a threat related to the UFO matter, like the Robertson panel suggested, but more than what the Robertson panel suggested, their first concern was when discussing a possible ET incursion was if this information somehow was determined to be detrimental to human society, they probably wouldn't even want any aspect of the information getting into human society. If they thought that influenced by an extraterrestrial intelligence would be toxic to humanity, they wouldn't even allow the discussion of the possibility of existing manifest.
Assuming they're competent enough to even realize that.
Well, if they are, if that's their logic, then it's a tactical consideration managed by a resistance. So then you find yourself wondering if you're second guessing things you shouldn't be talking about at all. And the answer is really, we don't know. And the best way I know of to get these answers is just to do science, to do the work, to build the data, to understand the situation and all of its nuances, and then come to a good conclusion about what it is you're dealing with that's effective and safe and that has the best interests of humanity in mind.
Well, this is not a new problem that the government has either publicly or privately been concerned with. Back in World War II and then after World War II, we had the onset of very intriguing phenomenal events that were dubbed, in the case of World War II, Foo Fighters. And then later on in Sweden, we had the ghost rocket scenario, which also included possibility of like ghost planes and that sort of thing. Now, what is NARCAP's official opinion, and what is your personal opinion of what these Foo Fighter objects reported by pilots during World War II were?
Well, the Foo Fighter term, if I remember correctly, came out of a Black Widow squadron that was operating off the coast of Japan, I believe, and they were encountering UAP that were giving them radar returns, and they called them Foo Fighters. There were also reports in the bomber squadrons of all the participants in the European theater and the Japanese as well that encountered UAP lights and objects in the course of their missions. And so again, this kind of tells me that the phenomenon has been around for a while. What they were, I don't know. These organized plasmas, I mean, the list could be anything. There could be an energetic relationship between the aircraft and the environment. Well, one of our researchers, Richard Spalding, offered a study of that particular focus to the Project Spirit analysis, and it's a bit provocative. He works for Sandia Labs, atmospheric physicist, but there are some ideas, but again, we have to work the nuances. We have to actually do the work and to have anything to suggest. In my own personal opinion, I think that it's consistent with what's been reported right up to the present, and that recently the Argentinian government tasked a team to study UAP phenomena, and we received a compendium of UAP reports involving aviation safety from the Argentinians, and they're just the same types of reports that we have here. They're really no different. You could be reading, except for the Hispanic names, you would be reading the same kinds of reports that we have here in the U.S. Back over 50 years. We have a report in our files in 1926 of a guy who was accosted by 6 flying manhole covers, as he called them. So again, the jury's out in terms of what they are, but they are.
I think long-term listeners to the Paracast are quite aware of this, but I realize some of you have not listened to the show all these years. Some of you are new listeners, so let me just say this again. When you say flying manhole covers, I start thinking about certain UFO photographs that we all know about and we're not going to mention, especially certain photographs from the so-called one-armed man in Europe that we don't want to mention his name.
Or sure. the twins that shall not be named in Hawaii.
We don't. He knows what we're talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Ted Roe is definitely with it. From NARCAP with Gene and Chris in
the Paracast.
Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
Quantitative easing, unemployment at depression levels, Europe financial system falling apart, China getting out of U.S. treasuries. At the end of 2008, the time of TARP, the national debt was at $11 trillion, gold trading around $850 per ounce. Close to 2012, the national debt exceeded $16.4 trillion, gold doubled to $1,600 per ounce. The $20 trillion threshold for the national debt is inevitable. Politicians in Washington have a ferocious appetite for spending and stimulus. What's worse, a printing press to finance. 100 years ago, we had a gold standard to limit this madness, but now you have to adopt your own gold standard. Don't be fooled with paper promises. Get Midas Resources 10 Reasons to Buy Gold free by calling 800-686-2237. Understanding the gold and silver market may be the only insurance you could have to avoiding the next economic crisis. Call 1-800-686-2237 and order your free copy. Again, that's 800-686-2237.
If you need to say happy birthday, happy anniversary, thank you, or simply I'm thinking of you, ProFlowers.com is the key. ProFlowers has stunning bouquets, like the best-selling 100 blooms for $19.99. Plus, ProFlowers will include a glass vase for free. Sending someone a wonderful surprise of beautiful flowers sent fresh from the fields is easy. Choose the bouquet you like, pick the delivery date, and each order is 100% guaranteed. Plus, all bouquets from ProFlowers are guaranteed to last at least 7 full days. Beautiful, fragrant flowers, picked fresh and sent to your loved one for lasting enjoyment. To get this incredible savings and send someone 100 gorgeous blooms with a free vase for $19.99, go to ProFlowers.com, click the blue microphone in the top right corner, and enter code PLOW. That's ProFlowers.com. Click the mic and enter code PLOW.
Question: could too many GMO foods and toxins be overloading your digestive and immune systems? Answer: yes. If you're searching for a powerful detox that's gentle enough to use every day, use Pro-EM1 from Terraganics. Pro-EM1 is a powerful liquid probiotic that uses good bacteria to suppress pathogens and gently eliminate toxins from your body. A healthy digestive system will cleanse and remove toxins, support weight loss, improve absorption of food nutrients, and aid in controlling yeast and other infections. Pro-EM1 is made with only non-GMO and certified organic ingredients, has no preservatives, and is dairy, soy, wheat, and gluten-free. Pro-EM1 is the key to your digestive health. Order Pro-EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse at Terraganics.com, spelled Terraganix.com, or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Also available through Amazon Prime. Pro-EM1 from Terraganics. Life's getting better.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
So you see, we don't want to mention those twins and about the fact that they cast a bad light on people in Hawaii. But they also film Hawaii Five-0 there.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
And I see Dog driving around here every now and then, too. He lives here on the island.
Who's that?
Dog the Bounty.
Dog the Bounty.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of hard to miss.
Yeah. Hard to miss.
Yeah. You kind of started with this in the last segment, and maybe we should talk about it. Since NARCAP has been around now, over 14 years, can you mention maybe one or two of the best cases you've gotten?
Well, sure. We have one. We've been doing photo analysis. That's one of Dr. Haines' fortes. And one of our photo analysis cases, I think, is pretty good. It involves an airliner coming in on approach to San Jose International in the South Bay area of San Francisco. And it's coming over the San Bruno. And there was a group of astronomers who were set up at sunset and had what was at the time a very expensive and powerful camera, and noticed that a small ball of light was following this airliner and proceeded to take a series of pictures of this thing as it pulled up under the tail of the airliner and sort of parked there for a little bit and then broke away and left at an oblique angle. I think it's one of the best photo cases we've got in our files in terms of explaining just what it is we're looking at and and what one profile of UAP may be. I think it's a very good case. Other cases, we've done some work for the Chilean government, and we did at their request, we did a study of some video segment referred to as the El Bosque case, and that's available on NARCAP website. You have to go into the CEFA section, the section where we talk about our relationship with the Chileans, but it's in the case files there. And it's analysis of video shot during an air show by the Chilean Air Force, and the capture of some very high-speed UAP moving, jumping from frame to frame at 30 frames per second. We came back thinking that, yes, those were UAP, but four different analyses were done of the study, and 2 of them came back negative and 2 came back positive. So the Chileans declared that it was inconclusive. And I think we got to be a little careful about those types of conclusions and how we score cases. But I thought it was a particularly interesting case.
All right,
So
you say 2 negative, meaning that they were fake?
No, that the belief was that the camera was picking up insects and artifacts that weren't external. So we determined that though the cameras were set far apart, that on at least one occasion they captured the same object at the same time, and there's a number of examples of what we filmed that we do not, or what we analyzed that we do not believe are insects. That we did pixel stretching around it to see if there were wing beats and this kind of stuff, and there weren't. So in our perspective, we came down with a solid, yeah, those are UAP. They're moving, they're jumping from frame to frame at fractions of a second. They're very fast. They weren't very big, disc shaped, maybe a meter across, and all kinds of questions could arise from that.
Are the actual pictures posted online
Yes,
that
yeah.
our listeners can check?
Yes, I had intended to get up I actually collected a bunch of this information based on your listeners' questions, and I had it prepared to go on I was going to post it on your site.
Well, you know what? Why don't you do that between the time the show airs and now? And that way, when listeners go to forum.theparacast.com, we'll have a section.
Right.
For NARCAP, a different one from the questions section. We already have a section there just for people who have questions on the show. We'll set up a thread or a topic area where people can discuss the show, and there you can post any further responses, links to photographs, that kind of thing.
Sure, that's fine. So to answer your question, yeah, the study's posted on the NARCAP site in the CEPA section, CFA section.
That's interesting here, too. The fact is that you're able to work with the authorities in Chile, able to work with authorities, say, in other countries, but not in America.
That's right. That's right. The AIM manual, the Airman's Manual, basically spells it out, and it says that if you're a pilot or an air controller and you want to report a UFO, you can contact a UFO reporting center or an aerospace company that will remain unnamed, and they don't want to know.
The one that's unnamed, is that like Bigelow?
Yeah.
Okay.
My point is that nothing is going to come of it that will help aviation safety or help pilots.
Doesn't this also serve as a disincentive for pilots to report anything? I mentioned this on a previous show about this, that we had that telltale scene in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where the traffic controllers are in touch with these pilots reporting UFOs. And they ask, do you want to report a UFO? And they say no. I wonder how many good sightings are never reported because the pilots don't want to get involved.
It's pretty clear from our experience that we're looking at the tip of a very large iceberg. And as pilots learn about us, they report to us, and it's usually soon after they retire. It's rare that we get a working case. We don't get them that often that are we have to hear about the case within 2 weeks of the event so that we can FOIA request radar data and this kind of stuff from the FAA, audio tapes and that sort of thing. And we don't get those very often. We do get them sometimes, but not very often. Usually our reporters are concerned about their image, and will wait until they can talk about it without affecting their careers.
Well, how much cooperation have you received from the commercial pilot organizations and commercial aviation? I'm sure you've done an outreach program, urging pilots to come forward or aircraft traffic controllers to come forward with any pertinent information regarding UAP sightings. How cooperative have you found the aviation community to be?
Well, when you're dealing with pilots and retired pilots, like Retired Airline Pilots Association, that sort of thing, it isn't too difficult. But when you start dealing with administrators and managers, middle managers in FAA, for example, or in commercial airlines themselves, it gets a little dicey. We did a survey of pilots and air crews. We approached a number of commercial airlines, didn't want anything to do with us. And then one airline took us on, a regional air carrier, and made sure that we ended up in the mailboxes of everybody in the ready rooms and so on. And we had an almost 26% response rate, which is practically unheard of for surveys. And out of that, we did get some helpful data. It really it seems to vary with the culture of the commercial organization. The FAA, on the other hand, are just doggedly not interested in talking to anybody.
We have Ted Roe, Executive Director of NARCAP, with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Independently leading the way for the nation. Compelling talk for every political persuasion. We are GCN.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code NIGHTOWL. Use the coupon code NIGHTOWL to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKE soft.com. lemkesoft.com. LEMKE soft.com.
What good is a Big Berkey water filter?
We get that question a lot here at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. And in a word, the answer is protection. Protection from water main breaks, E. coli contamination, environmental chemical spills, pesticide runoff, chlorine taste and smell, and all forms of fluoride. Plus, Big Berkey water filters are the original gravity water filter system and most trusted on the market for a reason. Tested by multiple independent NSF EPA certified labs, they are the gold standard in water purification. At only 1.7 cents a gallon, a single set of filters can last for 5 to 10 years. That means big savings. Big Berkey, the one that's powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water. Get a Big Berkey today at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. GCN listeners receive 5% off all ceramic filter systems. Visit our website or call 1-877-99-BERKEY. That's 877-99-BERKEY. Big Berkey Water Filters, for the love of clean water.
At 30dayfoodsupply.com, you can now purchase a one-of-a-kind product not available anywhere else. A meatless burger dry mix in 4 delicious flavors. With our new Oregon Trail Foods vegan burgers, all you do is add water and fry. They need no refrigeration. They're packaged in Mylar bags with an oxygen absorber for a long shelf life. They're non-GMO. They're gluten, soy, nut, and chemical-free, but they're loaded with flavor. And a good source of carbs and protein, yet low in sodium. Flavors include Italian, spicy Mexican, 6 vegetable, and black bean olive. Go to 30dayfoodsupply.com or call 541-229-0010 and order today. Eat them every day, take them camping, or save them for an emergency. Check them out at 30dayfoodsupply.com and click on the vegan burger icon. That's 30dayfoodsupply.com, where all of our products are produced in Oregon by Oregon Trail Foods. 30dayfoodsupply.com.
There are many things the human body can do very well, but maintaining the proper pH level isn't always one of them. That's where AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops can make a world of difference. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops helps your body do what's natural. Just a few drops a day helps rid your body of harmful waste and acid while promoting health and restoring vibrance and energy. Alkalizing boosts your immune system and can help fight headaches, irritability, cramping, and insomnia. Alkalizing also helps the body fight depression and even bone loss. To learn more about the importance of alkalizing and how you can find life-changing and vital balance, please visit AlkaVision's brand new website at alkavision.com. Same great products, but now easier to use and more informative than ever before. To get your very own plasma pH drops for just $29.95, call 800-518-7615 or visit alkavision.com. That's ALKA vision.com. Alkalize your body and supercharge your health at the new alkavision.com.
This is Leslie Kane, and I'm with the Coalition for Freedom of Information, and you are listening to the Paracast.
Here in the Paracast with Gene and Chris, we have Ted Roe, Executive Director of NARCAP, and we're focusing on the strange phenomena happening in our skies, and some call it UFOs, but we're referring to, I guess, the more serious stuff. Isn't it also true that when you talk about UFOs, it has kind of an aura about it, like flying saucers once did, where you say UFO and they look at it and say, ha, 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 spaceships. But once you refer to it in a different way, strange phenomena, it's taken more seriously.
Well, that was our experience. Once we adopted the term UAP in 2000, you could go back to the Internet Archives and see that no U.S. organization was using that term, and now it's commonplace everywhere. And it's specifically because it has a objective quality, which it may be losing a bit given people that are using the term. Yeah, there's definitely a stigma with the term UFO, and it's one that we try to avoid using, if at all possible, particularly in conversations with government and that sort of thing. We did a study for the General Accounting Office, interrogating the Air Force on uncorrelated incursions into U.S. air defense zones. We spent 3 years on that project, and at the time we didn't use the term UFO at all. I don't think it's really important. It can alienate people and create problems if you don't understand your terminology and know your audience.
That's really important. We do have a number of questions, as you're aware of, Ted, at forum.theparacast.com, where our listeners are able to post questions for our guests. And Eric the Red, who is one of our new signups here at forum.theparacast.com, he's been with us about a year and a half. He has a couple of interesting questions, and this, I think, kind of goes into the whole mindset of the skeptic. And he's wondering if you and Dr. Haines have a hypothesis as to why many or most skeptics refuse to admit the reality of UAPs.
Well, it's probably, I'm sure the reason is fairly similar to why many people are true believers without direct experience and without the evidence they need to make the claims they claim. We've been invited to debate with Michael Shermer and some of these other guys, and just nothing good comes of it, so we decline. They have an agenda. They have a perspective. I don't think the term skeptic is accurate. A skeptic is open to the potentials, and that's not what we see with these folks. They consider themselves the vanguards of rationalism, and they're just another aspect of what happens when we don't engage the unknown honestly. It's just part of the problem, along with a lot of other problems around the study.
It's kind of hard to see a UAP if you have your head buried in the sand.
Well, and that's true, but at the same time, my experience, I kept sort of an unofficial poll, and it seems to be about 1 in 6 people have direct experience with one in their lifetimes.
1 in 6?
Yeah, has seen one themselves. And that's just informal. I just kind of chat my way along. see who pops up and says they saw something, and kind of what the odds are there. It's very informal, but my point is that there's no given that you could spend every day looking up and not see a UAP.
Well, nowadays everybody's looking down at their iPhone or their Android phone.
Yeah. Well, sure. We don't know what UAP are, and neither do they. They can assert all sorts of reasons why there are no UAP and certainly no incursions taking place. And I hope they're right. But the reality of modern science doesn't support their contentions. And the only way out is through. We have to do the work and get the answers. And if they want to sit on the sideline and take pot shots, they can do that. I read Magaha's recent report on the Volantich matter, and it was disappointing.
Would you detail that more for our listeners who don't know quite what you're talking about?
Yeah, we just had the anniversary.
Yes. Freddie Volantich was a young man, a pilot, flew out of Australia one day on a short leg trip and ended up disappearing. But when he did, he had a radio transmission, and he was describing to the air controllers that he was seeing a UFO, as he described it, and that it was accosting him. And the last bit of audio involves metal on metal. So they're not really sure what happened to him. Dr. Haines wrote a book about it, and he offered 4 perspectives, including an abduction in the air, along with 3 other more practical explanations. Magaha's explanation is a bit short. And prior to that, the same organization offered another explanation that was equally useless. So if these guys were really skeptics and they were really good at what they did, I'd invite them to join NARCAP. We need good minds that are able to roll with the data and do good work. But I'm no more interested in seeing them on board than I am a number of the UFO believers and so-called researchers out there that I wouldn't want any organization.
Now, what about these reality TV shows that come on, and there have been several where they seem to all have the same plot line with a night vision goggles, sensationalist approach, focusing on cases that have maybe the buzz value of attracting listeners, but aren't necessarily factual?
It's infotainment to sell advertising. It doesn't help us at all. I don't spend any time watching these things. I don't think they have anything really to contribute to the conversation. They come to us for talking points, and occasionally approach us to participate in their shows. And for the most part, we don't. We've done a couple of things for National Geographic recently, and NHK came by and we did a segment for them. They were pretty good. But as a whole, we tend to avoid these types of productions. They rarely pay you, first part, for all the time that they take to have you present in their production.
Well, they do supply you with a lot of slime that you have to wipe off afterwards.
Oh, it's disgusting. It really is. And I'm nothing personal, but I can't say that I've been very satisfied with the way things have been handled, programs I've been involved with. And I wouldn't encourage anybody to do it. I think that the narcissism present in this field is just out of control, and that a lot of folks just, they get invited to a podium and they can't resist. It doesn't matter if they don't have anything to say and no leg to stand on. The fact that they're there makes them credible.
So they're making a living rather than spreading valuable information.
That's my opinion. The same with UFO conferences. You could read that as UFO shows. And they're not conferences that people aren't pulling together and breaking out their data and marching into new territory and developing project plans and coming up with funding and that sort of thing. That's not what they're doing, which is what a conference is.
Well, it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So it's more just, I don't know. I don't think it helps. One thing it is a good indicator of the interest in the subject and that people are struggling with it. Vali was right when he presented to the UN in 1978. He suggested that a failure by science to engage on the UFO topic would encourage con men and societal ills of various kinds, and it certainly has. Everything from the Heaven's Gate suicides to a certain one-armed researcher in Switzerland, to you name it. There are a lot of folks taking advantage in this situation. And
hey, you got two brothers right there in Hawaii that are making a lot of dough promoting hoaxes and disseminating ridiculous footage and photographs that are being passed off as real. And to me, that does such a disservice to the subject, and it digs it deeper into the hole.
We're going to break ourselves out of some holes here. We have Ted Roe joining us with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Great minds think alike. The network for the independent-minded. The Genesis Communications Network. GCN.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there is The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on our distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
So here's what happened. I was placing an order online. The site went down. It took hours before it returned, but I had already placed the order with another company. If your site goes down, you could lose business. And if you have a business or personal site, you'll want to know it's easy to run and it will stay online. At iWeb, your site is hosted on one of the most reliable networks in the world. Talk to a sales rep at iWeb.com. Use the promo code TechNightOwl for a special discount.
Big business has discovered the preparedness market, and that makes it difficult to know where to go and who to trust. MyPatriotSupply.com is owned and operated by patriots just like you. Has the best prices on storable food, non-GMO seeds, water filtration devices, home canning equipment, survival and self-reliance books, and more. MyPatriotSupply.com has old-fashioned values and the absolute best customer service in the industry. Look for the deal of the day, unique, affordable survival supplies that fit anyone's budget. Get same-day shipping on all orders and free shipping on orders over $49. Call 866-229-0927, 866-229-0927, or visit MyPatriotSupply.com for emergency preparedness, self-reliance, and food independence. Shop with a name you know and a name you can trust. Before it's time to survive, it's time to prepare. MyPatriotSupply.com.
I will never forget the day my son Jeremy told me he hated me and slammed the door in my face. I'm behavioral therapist Janet Lehman. Behavior problems can turn the child you love and your life into a nightmare. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, the step-by-step program that shows you how to fix the worst behavior problems and get your child to respect and listen to you again. No matter what the behavior, defiance, backtalk, angry outbursts, disrespect, we can help you stop it. Now you can get the Total Transformation for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. You can keep it forever for free.
Limited number of free programs available. Call now. 1-888-912-1595. 1-888-912-1595. That's 1-888-912-1595. 1-888-912-1595.
Have you ever noticed how many sick and miserable people there are? I'm serious. I'm talking about people of all ages who have conditions and diseases which affect their quality of life. Most of them seem to have one thing in common: polypharmacy. That is, dependence on multiple prescription drugs with side effects that actually make them sicker and sicker, not healthy. The good news is that people are waking up to the fact that if you supply your body with all of the nutrients it requires, you will feel better, be healthier, and have a better life. It's important to know that Beyond Tangy Tangerine is the most amazing, great tasting, comprehensive nutritional supplement. Besides supplying all the vitamins our bodies need, it also supplies the necessary minerals that are required for the vitamins to kick in. Look, folks, I'm hooked on it, and I think if you try it, you'll become hooked. This stuff really works. That's why I'm urging you to make it part of your daily health regimen. Visit InfoWarsTeam.com to secure your canister of Beyond Tangy Tangerine today. Sign up for auto ship and save on shipping costs. That's Beyond Tangy Tangerine at InfoWarsTeam.com.
Hi, this is Don Ecker, and you are tuned into the Paracast. Let me tell you what, you're going to hear stuff here that you probably won't hear anywhere else. Hear that, George Snorri?
Ted Roe is executive director at NARCAP. We're talking about the serious side of research into unidentified aerial phenomena.
The two twins promoting, you know, I mean, there are some actual good photographs and good video clips on there, but for every good one, there's got to be at least 50 that are just absolute ridiculously transparent in terms of it being a hoax or misidentified natural phenomena.
Well, yeah, and there are a lot of folks taking advantage, not just those brothers. There's a certain exopolitics maven living here on the island too that promotes a lot of things that are unfounded. The problem is that people are looking for information, and there's a lot of information out there. Most of it is incredible or useful, and that's why, like with NARCAP, I've had to kind of differentiate us from the general ufology field because it hurts our message to be associated because they don't manage their own image as well. And that's where I got off the horse with the citizens' hearings recently and some of the other things that have gone on.
I was going to ask you about the citizens' hearing. Okay, so they get ex-members of Congress to participate in faux hearings on UFOs. And to be fair, some of the presenters were pretty straight ahead, but other presenters, maybe very few, were a little bit of the woo-woo category. So you think this was a waste of time or what?
Well, if somebody would hand me $1 million for my research budget, I could probably come up with better information and more helpful data than a dog and pony show like that. I mean, if I actually had a research budget that I could work with, that I could set up closed symposia with the top research teams and efforts of merit in the world, if I had the kind of budget that would allow me to have the freedom to travel the way we need to in order to cement these relationships and to coalesce into a larger scientific and global discussion on UAP. I mean, those are the directions that are going to make a difference in this. You can bang on the doors of government all day long, and hey, I mean, you know, as Dr. Phil would say, how's that working for you? It doesn't seem to have made a lot of difference so far.
Well, what really got me was the final speaker or presentation of the entire, 5-6 days. And it was the honorable, ex-defense minister of Canada, Paul Hellyer. And I just couldn't believe that he picked up a book of a very dubious abductee and started reading verbatim what the ETs were telling him. And I wanted to do the vaudevillian, it's not too graphic. I'm not being graphic enough. I was so just jumping up and down inside. Of course, I was there working as a video camera person, so I had a job to do. But the fact that Bassett allowed that to happen, just totally any sort of credibility that a few of the presenters had was just totally thrown out the window with these ridiculous comments that were made supposedly from the mouth of ET, and it just, to me, it was so ludicrous. Oh man, that got me going, and it's getting me going again.
Well, hey, can I ask you a question, Chris? Have you ever seen a UFO yourself?
Many, many, many. In the San Luis Valley during the 90s, they were almost a nightly occurrence. I've seen as many as 13 objects in one sighting, which I actually got some pretty good video footage with night vision.
So it's in your nervous system. It's in your body. You've seen these things. It's made an imprint on you.
I've had a daylight sighting 150 feet away from me that zipped right across the road.
So when these people start, if you'll pardon the fun, the term, talking out of their back ends, it upsets you.
And, well, I just can't believe that people are so gullible that they actually buy into this stuff. I mean, the particular abductee we're talking about.
My point, Chris, is that it upsets me too.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And when we're trying to get to the root of what this is about, and you have all of these folks just standing around putting up noise and trying to seem important and putting their own images in front of the importance of the subject itself, it's really hard to tolerate. It's really hard to sit quietly and let the Greers and the Bassetts and the so on out there wade around in this. There's nothing to be done about it other than to avoid it and to decry it when it's appropriate. And you got a radio show, it's appropriate. I don't think that these sort of things help. And if we really want to get to the bottom of this, we need to do the work. And that really, with a few efforts of merit set aside, has really not been done. And that's just what it comes down to.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it's unfortunate. Not only does it do these individuals, grandstanding individuals, not help, they actually are a detriment. They actually set us back.
They do.
And they make the task of getting funding, getting real involvement by academia and in the scientific community all that much more difficult and almost impossible because they're just screwing everything up.
I mean, if somebody would come to me and hand me 1.1 million, they'd get their money's worth out of it, and it wouldn't be some UFO show.
No. I mean, and anybody thinks the U.S. government's going to disclose the extent of their knowledge about this subject. We've already discussed that a lot of this information is probably being held in the private sector, number one, and that government officials really are pretty much in the dark for the most part. Mm-hmm. But even if there is a body of evidence that's being held, maybe in a classified manner, it would be the last thing that they would want to reveal to the public. And I think all these other countries coming forward and opening up their UFO files, obviously we're not getting them all, but they're doing that, I think, to take the heat off the U.S., to throw everybody a bone so that the U.S. Maybe can skirt by for a little bit longer without having to really deal head on with the issue, which will never be dealt with. It is a national security issue. I don't care what they've said in the past. I don't care what they say now. There's no question in my mind, and you're a perfect person to validate this comment, that these objects do represent lack of control of our airspace by government. And when government's not in control, that's the last thing they want to talk about.
Well, that's right. And in particular, this situation, we've learned quite a lot about what our governments can do and what they can't do on the subject of ET incursions. And regardless of whether they're happening or not, even in the hypothetical, we're not in a good position to deal with them. And the effects and fallout of these of an ET incursion shouldn't be underestimated either.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely not. I think the classic example would be Barry Goldwater approaching his longtime friend, General Curtis LeMay, and asking to see, the Blue Room at Wright Pat and find out more about some of the rumors that were floating around. And it was the only time in Goldwater's whole relationship with LeMay that LeMay yelled at him and said, "Don't you ever ask me that again." I mean, that should tell you something right there.
Well, LeMay was a powerful personality. I mean, we might not have survived if LeMay had gone much further in his career, but yeah, there's that truth, the Forstall matter. There's Dr. James McDonald. So there's a lot of intrigue around this subject, and I don't think that we're ever going to get to the bottom of it by seeking accountability. These events occur every day in the public domain, and good observation skills are the first requirement if we want to get to the bottom of this. I don't have a lot of respect for those who'd stand on a podium and declare that an ET presence is a good thing, because some voice in their head told them so. there's just a lot of this stuff going on out here that it really makes you wonder.
Yeah.
You get Stephen Hawking's, here's one of the eminent minds of our time.
Let's pursue Stephen Hawking's in our next segment.
Sure.
Now, some of you listeners have asked us why we don't take telephone calls as other radio shows do, so you can ask questions directly of a guest. And the biggest reason is logistics. We record these shows in advance and not always the same day and time. It depends on the schedule of a guest. So we have a separate mechanism for you to ask questions. It's over at forum.theparacast.com. That's forum.theparacast.com. In our forums, we have a place called the Question Bank. When we have enough warning about a future guest, we'll put up a topic or thread there, and that way you can ask the questions, and we'll read them on the air, or at least we'll get as many in as we can. Ted Roe joins us with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Not just an alternative to the mainstream media. We're the premier independent talk radio network. We are GCN.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. If you'd like to listen to GCN programs on the go, I have great news. GCN has created a Droid and iPhone application, and it's free. Just as easy as going to GCNlive.com, click on the banner, and download. Before you know it, you'll be listening to your favorite hard-hitting GCN shows, live or on demand, right on your Droid or iPhone, 24/7 and on the go. So download the Droid and iPhone app free by clicking on the banner at GCNlive.com. Thanks again for listening to GCNlive.com. Again, that's GCNlive.com. We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit, then carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Hi, Ted Anderson. I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
We live in a complicated society. Stressful issues are always popping up. Have you ever been treated unfairly by someone? Have you ever been overcharged for a repair? Have you ever signed a contract or a document? Worried about identity theft? How many times have you been in those unique situations where you just wanted to call an attorney to find out if you're right or wrong, or what your legal rights are? But every time you think about calling an attorney, what do you think about first? That's right. Who do you call, and how much will it cost? Our friends at Legal Shield have found a solution. With a nationwide network of 6,900 attorneys who average over 19 years of experience, Legal Shield's law firms take over 40,000 calls per week helping their members. For less than $20 per month, you can have access to Legal Shield on everything from the trivial to the traumatic. Let Legal Shield stand up for your rights at lsprotection.com. That's lsprotection.com. Or call 855-340-SAVE, 855-340-7283.
Results will vary from case to case.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
We have Ted Roe, Executive Director of NARCAP. We're talking about the serious side of unidentified aerial phenomena. No woo-woo stuff here. It's too much of that already with Gene and Chris. You were about to say something in our previous segment, Ted, about Stephen Hawking. Is this his comment about aliens?
Well, sure. And it's not just about aliens. He commented that it was appropriate to talk about aliens, that the numbers were right, that the potentials were there. The probability would be that any aliens we would encounter would be marauding nomads who would rape the earth and leave us all destitute.
That sounds like Independence Day, the movie.
Right. And then his next comment was he gives no credit to UFO reports. They seem to only come from crackpots and weirdos. And, there's this cultural disconnect where on one hand, they can talk about the toxicity and the danger of an extraterrestrial incursion, and then in the very next breath, discount anything that might indicate that it's happening. Enrico Fermi did the same thing with his famous Fermi paradox. He and Edward Teller and Kopeninsky were all sitting around, and over lunch one day and talking about UFO reports. And then they got to a point where Fermi did some math, some deductive fractions, kind of like the Drake equation, and came to the conclusion that Earth should have been visited many times over. Where are they? So here they are on one hand, they're talking about UFO reports, and then on the other hand, where are the aliens? And there's this disconnect that exists in our culture, particularly amongst the bright ones, that I think is direct fallout from the Robertson panel and related activities. If even one of these UAP reports really is an ET incursion, we're behind the 8 ball. And it's because of attitudes like that. Dr. Hawkins is obviously oblivious to the fact that some of the best reports out there come from the military and involve military engagements and radar and so on. Cases like the Minot B-52 case in 68, North Dakota, things like that, very well documented cases, and yet they just get discounted. They don't even give it the time of day. I think it's sloppy thinking is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leads me to another question from one of our posters, Eric the Red, who's posted his question at forum.theparacast.com. And he's wondering, in the UAP literature, Ted, what do you think are the most credible books, papers, or bodies of research that you would recommend to a scientifically minded but open-minded skeptic that could possibly inform him and bring him up to speed on some of the really amazing cases that we do have?
Oh, I think if they're at all scientifically minded or have hard science or mathematics, I would recommend Paul Hill's book on unconventional flying objects for starters. Yeah, I would also offer Richard Dolan's work as far as a historical analysis goes to put it in a context. I would offer the various government reports like the Ministry of Defense of the UK's so-called Condign report, which is a very good and large study on UAP, although the conclusions are a bit rocky. I would recommend the Cometa report from the French, even though it was an independent study and involved many officials involved with UAP research in France and former directors of their official research teams.
Leslie Kean's book has some good, very good, firsthand reports by military personnel, up close and personal encounters, especially the Chilean Air Force case.
I was going to mention her last and give her the most time because she certainly has done a good job with her book, and as a resource, it is a good resource to open people's minds on this subject. I think, though, if you want science involved, it's a combination of documentation and you need somebody to help you get published somewhere where it get attention. Most mainstream science journals won't touch the subject. Although one of our guys managed to get a paper in to the British Planetary Society called Inflation Theory Implications for Extraterrestrial Visitation. So basically, if you embrace certain cosmologies, then you have to deal with the SETI aspects that come along as well. So I would recommend those for reading starters.
I think that's a good list for our listeners to jot down. If you have any high-powered scientists in your sphere of influence, lay a list on them and say, hey, what do you think of some of this information? When you can carve out some time, why don't you peruse this information and tell us what you think? I think it's really important. Have you ever encountered this scenario? This is another Eric the Red question. Have you ever encountered the scenario of a skeptic, a scientist in particular, doing a 180-degree turn in their view on this subject on account of being exposed to, let's say, your research?
Well, Eric's asking some good questions here, and let's just go back to what a skeptic is for a minute here. A true skeptic doesn't require any convincing from me. He'll look at the material and he'll make his own decision out of it, and it'll be based on his skill set and his understanding of what he's looking at. And 9 times out of 10, if the material is presented correctly, he'll understand it, and it'll become part of his perspective as he looks forward. And he won't discount it because it's preposterous or an unfortunate interest or something like that. The debunker, on the other hand, needs to be convinced, and I don't have any time for that mind. That mind has got a wall up that it needs to do something about, and it's not my problem to fix. That mind is convinced, and it can believe and do what it wants to do, like any mind can and should. but I'm not going to waste any time trying to convince it otherwise. I've had a lot of people who are on the fence come off the fence, or at least a little further to my side of the fence, looking at the material. But I can't say I've ever had anybody who was adamantly against it ever come around to my way of thinking. So it's not really there's a good portion of science today. The scientists today were raised in the Star Trek universe. You don't have to. They are already thinking about these things. For every one scientist that is an absolute no, I meet a dozen that are at least open. Science isn't the problem here. It's the data and how it's presented and who it's presented to. And as we pull it together, this is what I'm finding very heartening about our work with the Chilean government, and now our presentation and our work with the French government coming up next month, is that these organizations of fairly high credibility are pulling together now. They're starting to interact with each other. They're starting to share data and methodology and concerns, and starting to talk a little bit. And this is really, really important. It's a very important first step that's been in the offing for the last 50 years. So it'll be those guys that make the change. It'll be that effort that makes the change, in my opinion.
Well, another thing that would help is possibly related to this next question by Kanakaris, who's a poster at forum.theparacast.com, and he wonders about the numbers. Are reports that you guys are receiving, are they declining? Is there any sort of patterning within these reports? Are we seeing an upsurge of reports because people may be more apt to report them now? Maybe the subject is getting less toxic. Let's talk about your database a little bit. Any sort of patterns of activity, ebbing and flowing? Anything that you can address there?
Well, I wouldn't say the report numbers are going down at all. A lot of it has to do with who we reach and when we reach them, as far as pilot reporters go. As the word gets to them, they get to us. And it's just been a process of word of mouth, putting it out there. We haven't had a huge budget. Dr. Haines and I have run NARCAP out of our own pockets for the last 14 years. We're getting our nonprofit status shortly, so the IRS tells me. And then we can start looking for a real budget. But even at that, we've seen a steady increase in reports over time. And a lot of people recognize this. I watch our website statistics and so on. And I've seen a steady uptick there as well. So as the general population becomes more aware of this, then we get more reports.
Now, in regard to the frequency of UFO sightings, now, MUFON reported quite a few in their newsletter. Also, Chris Rutkowski, the Canadian UFO researcher, has been on the Paracast on several occasions, reported a wave of UFO cases last year. I'm going to ask you more about that in a moment. Ted Roe joining Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Neighbors, are you tired of dealing with a slow web hosting provider? Well, check out A2 Hosting and their screaming fast Swift server platform. They even have SSDs that load pages 300% faster than the competition. Ready to give your site a speed boost? Well, tell you what, neighbors, head on over to a2hosting.com. That's A2, that's number 2, a2hosting.com. Check out their Prime hosting account. And get this, neighbors, they're even giving you an exclusive 25% off discount for all our listeners. 25%. And remember, their Guru Crew support team is standing by 24/7, 365 days a year to answer any of your questions. Now, to get the discount, use the coupon code GENE when you check out.
Mike Stenerson for Midas Resources. At no time in history have precious metals been more important, certainly not in my 22 years in the industry. The dollar has lost over 90% of its value in the last 60 years. No fiat currency has ever survived the government printing presses. Ours is not immune. The time is now to be proactive. 1-800-686-2237, extension 116. Anything tied to the dollar is at risk. CDs, annuities, 401ks, IRAs, stocks, bonds, you name it, so decide. Do you want to leave a legacy of wealth or debt for your family? The choice is yours. Call me at 1-800-686-2237, extension 116. That's 1-800-686-2237, extension 116. Be proactive, not reactive. Call 1-800-686-2237, extension 116.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-905-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV.
There are many things the human body can do very well, but maintaining the proper pH level isn't always one of them. That's where AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops can make a world of difference. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops helps your body do what's natural. Just a few drops a day helps rid your body of harmful waste and acid while promoting health and restoring vibrance and energy. Alkalizing boosts your immune system and can help fight headaches, irritability, cramping, and insomnia. Alkalizing also helps the body fight depression and even bone loss. To learn more about the importance of alkalizing and how you can find life-changing and vital balance, please visit AlkaVision's brand new website at alkavision.com. Same great products, but now easier to use and more informative than ever before. To get your very own Plasma pH Drops for just $29.95, call 800-518-7615 or visit alkavision.com. That's ALKA vision.com. Alkalize your body and supercharge your health at the new alkavision.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Ted Roe is joining Gene and Chris in the Paracast. He's Executive Director of NARCAP. Now, just to recap something you mentioned in the previous segment, you're in the process of getting your nonprofit status. Of course, you're not a member of the Tea Party, so it's easier, right?
I don't know. We've had our application in for 2 years now.
So you're not involved in any politics, but it still takes a long time. It's not so easy.
Yeah, apparently. My last conversation with the IRS was very promising, so I anticipate that our status will come through shortly. But it took a long time, and I'm not sure why that was.
In other words, it's nothing personal.
I'm hoping it was nothing personal. But yeah, we're moving forward now with a 501c3 status. We are a nonprofit corporation in the state of Washington.
So if you are a resident of the state of Washington, you could donate and take it off your tax returns.
Absolutely. And of course, we have a lot of aviation being done in Washington state. So I'm hoping that there's an interest there that might express itself in some support for our efforts. Our travel budget alone is daunting just to deal with the Chileans and the French on their terms. We have to be able to move to them, so we appreciate any help. Absolutely.
Have you thought of having like a newsletter or something to maybe bring in some money?
Yes. I'm actually in the process of preparing Volume 1, Issue 1, as we speak. I'm putting together a couple of things that should be incentives for people to make donations, and I'm trying to expand and change our program a little bit because we've been our own organization for 14 years and beholden to nobody. Nobody's claimed NARCAP as an expense, and we haven't made any money through NARCAP. But we've had absolute control of what we do, and we've been able to control and protect our image, and we've been able to keep certain interests from buying into our organization and gaining control, that sort of thing. So we have to change and adapt a little more to the public environment and find other strategies to maintain our autonomy.
There was one question here from Han where he said, please ask Mr. Roe to talk about any reported incidents where onboard equipment has been interfered with by UAP. To be more specific, to his knowledge, are there any incidents where a pilot has observed technical malfunctions or failures in their equipment or airplane, and flight data, cockpit recordings, automated diagnostic logs, black box, etc., has recorded the same? What I'm trying to ask is, what is Mr. Roe's opinion on whether UAP affect only the pilot's perception, or can they be responsible for interference or damage that can be demonstrated with physical, tangible evidence? Interesting.
Well, that's a great question, Han. That really good question. And yeah, there are many examples of concurrent EM effects on electrical systems. And there are examples of those effects being documented either by third parties, direct examination, etc. One good example is, I mentioned earlier, the 1968 Minot B-52 case that, along with gun radar detection of the UAP, included a loss of communications as documented by both aircrew and control tower. Tom Tulane did an excellent job of documenting that case, and I'll provide the link later. There are other cases as well. Our technical report 3, NARCAP technical report 3, is titled A Preliminary Study of 64 Pilot Sighting Reports Involving Alleged Electromagnetic Effects on Aircraft Systems. It was written by Dr. Richard Haines and Dominic Weinstein, who's a member of the French College of Experts supporting GPAN. And most of the effects that we see involve, in their study, 79% of the cases involved electrical systems, 6% involved power plant systems, onboard radar contacts in 6% of the cases, etc. Radio function was affected most often, followed by compass reading errors. And that general aviation aircraft were more likely to be affected than commercial or military type aircraft. And most commonly, those cases involving concurrent EM effects involve ground UAP or lights. So yes, they do happen. It's beyond the perceptual range of the pilot. It is a physical manifestation, and they have been documented in third-party situations.
Let me go to the follow-up question from Han. All right, we have this other question from Han. I have heard mention of UAP reports that involve odd-looking aircraft. That is to say, that the witness reports seeing a plane or helicopter, but something in its configuration is strange or out of place. Can Mr. Roe recall any similar reports?
Well, yes and no. And I kind of wrote a response for Han here, so pardon me if it sounds a little bit read out. For the most part, UAP reports fall into general profiles of singular lights, objects with lights on them, unlit objects. Those that appear as objects seem to fall into general profiles, most commonly representing basic geometric forms, spheres, oblate spheroids, or discs, cylinders, triangles, cones, and occasionally forms that morph into different shapes. There are those that seem to morph into various shapes with no seeming rationale. And then there are UAP that seem to display characteristics of terrestrial aviation, like flashing running lights, though they are clearly not attached to a commonly recognized airframe. We have heard of UAP that morph into vaguely recognizable aircraft, but have yet to see many such reports in the data. I recently came across a report from a local fisherman whereby he described putting a handheld spotlight on an object hovering over his boat that looked a lot like a jet aircraft, but was quiet. And when it left, it moved towards orbit at a very high rate of speed from a dead stop. So these cases are not unheard of, but we don't have many of them in our particular database.
Let's move into another question here. And this is something that we kind of asked in one direction, but not completely. If time permits, please ask Mr. Roe to talk about the differences in protocol between military and civilian pilots when they encounter a UAP, and how this varies between different nations or states, and any changes you'd like to see in that protocol. As we said, we kind of covered the pilot reporting procedure earlier, but maybe you can expand upon it there.
Well, as I mentioned, the FAA really doesn't want to know. unless it's reported to the Aviation Safety Reporting System confidentially. They really don't have a portal to take those cases. And if a pilot does encounter one, I encourage him to do that, to make a report to the ASRS, because we have access to their database and can work with it from there. Of course, the military debriefs its pilots, and everything, all data there is protected by security oaths. In other countries, it's a bit different. The French collect data and train their air controllers and pilots to make UAP reports. So do the Chileans. The Argentinians are getting into that mode, I believe. I'm not sure about how the Peruvians handle it yet, but I think they have an education program and a data collection program that goes across their bureaucracy. Personally, I these are all good steps. I think every nation should have some kind of a dedicated UAP research group. They should be coordinating with other national UAP research groups. I think there should be some overarching authority around the subject, maybe located in the UN ICAO, their International Civil Aviation Org.
We have more of your questions coming, and we have more comments from our guests this week. We're joined on the Paracast by Ted Roe. He's Executive Director of NARCAP. And we've covered a lot of ground, but there's more to come. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Free from the shackles of corporate America, we're the place for independent thinkers. GCN.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter, and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code NIGHTOWL. Use the coupon code NIGHTOWL to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKE soft.com. lemkesoft.com. LEMKE soft.com.
Americans have always been ready to defend, to serve, and to honor those who defended and are defending all of us. So this month, the Freeze Dry Guy honors and serves Americans with our meat, rice, and potato sale. Our unit includes 4 number 10 cans of quality Mountain House cooked diced beef, ground beef, diced chicken, white rice, and 2 cans of FDG dehydrated diced potatoes. 158 servings per case unit. And during the Freeze Dry Guy's meat, rice, and potato sale, get 1 case for only $1.79, 2 cases for only $3.55, or get 3 cases for only $5.15. And all come with lots of valuable freebies. For details, click freezedryguy.com and hurry. Sale ends soon. Go to freezedryguy.com or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD. Plus free shipping to the lower 48 states from the Freeze Dry Guy. The finest freeze-dried and dehydrated foods available anywhere for long-term storage.
This alert just came in. This special announcement is for business owners and leaders of organizations who've been waiting for the right time to build. General Steel has made it impossible to wait any longer with rock-bottom prices that could save you thousands. That's right, General Steel, America's leader in pre-engineered structures, is offering buildings at prices you will never see again. Don't miss these prices. A 50 by 100 for $35,000. You heard right, that's 5,000 square feet for $35,000. Manufacturers, if you need a larger building, try a 100 by 100 commercial building for $129,000. You can't afford to rent with these prices. Imagine a 70 by 100-foot church building for under $69,000. With the economy improving and interest rates still at historic lows, you can't afford to wait. So call 866-91-STEEL. Lock in your price now. Call 866-91-STEEL. That's 866-917-8335.
Question: could too many GMO foods and toxins be overloading your digestive and immune systems? Answer: yes. If you're searching for a powerful detox that's gentle enough to use every day, use Pro EM1 from Terraganics. Pro EM1 is a powerful liquid probiotic that uses good bacteria to suppress pathogens and gently eliminate toxins from your body. A healthy digestive system will cleanse and remove toxins, support weight loss, improve absorption of food nutrients, and aid in controlling yeast and other infections. Pro EM1 is made with only non-GMO and certified organic ingredients, has no preservatives, and is dairy, soy, wheat, and gluten-free. Pro EM1 is the key to your digestive health. Order Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse at Teraganix.com, spelled Teraganix.com, or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Also available through Amazon Prime. Pro EM1 from Teraganix. Life's getting better.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
We have Ted Roe with Gene and Chris on the Paracast. He's executive director of NARCAP, which, of course, puts him in a wonderful, enviable position for getting loads and loads of cases. Now, I want to just cover one particular question here. This is from Eric the Red, and it's a long question, so I'm going to kind of be brief about it, because by and large, this is something where, you know, he may not be able to give the answers. So have you received any communications, either written or verbal, Ted Roe, either you or Dr. Haines, from scientists, government officials, FAA officials, control tower personnel, pilots with distinguished careers, astronomers, NASA scientists, engineers, etc., where they admit off the record they think there's something real, there's something genuine about UAP?
Good question, and the short answer is yes. Well, Gene, I could answer that for you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Well, just get in line.
No, but really the short answer is yes. Privately, many people off the record are very curious about this subject and have opinions about it. And that includes astronomers and air controllers and just about everybody on that list. I've heard from some example thereof who's very concerned and interested in the subject.
And they all have reasons, I suppose, for not coming forward.
Well, they do. They do. And some of those reasons may involve their concern for their image, and probably rightly so in most cases. It's not a safe subject to be too open about. And then, the other half of it is that we as a race may not be able to handle what is already known. And I'm a big fan of democracy, and I don't like other people telling me what I can handle. But at the same time, I don't know everything around this subject, so I can't really sit in judgment of those who might have made decisions around this.
Let me ask you something here, which is maybe implicit in the previous question and the response. Do you know of any of these high-profile UFO, UAP skeptics who privately believe in their reality, but publicly have to maintain this skeptical posture?
Well, no, not in particular. Again, when you say skeptic, I'm thinking debunker.
Yes.
So in that sense, no, they're pretty entrenched. If anything, they won't touch cases that they can't introduce some plausible denial to. So no, I like I said earlier in the show, if I could get a true skeptic on board, that would be just fine with me. That's the kind of mind we want in this study. But debunkers just really don't have much to add to the conversation, in my opinion.
So I'll ask then, have you ever converted a skeptic to believing something serious about the subject because of your research?
I've brought people who are scientists and who are critical-minded closer to the subject, but that was because of their mindset, not because I influenced them differently. People believe what they want to believe, and until they decide that their belief needs to be upgraded, changed, or dropped, they won't do it. And I can spend all the time in the world showing them charts and graphs and photographs and stories and claims and everything else, and it won't make any difference to a person who's already made up their mind. A true skeptic hasn't made up their mind. and they understand that science is a philosophy, one of many philosophies that we use to determine knowledge in our reality, and that it's generally the slowest, but the most meticulous in terms of developing knowledge. So there's a lot of frustrations with science and scientists out there, but if you do the work, then the science comes right along. You're doing it.
Let's move on to the next one here. Okay. I know we have one person who says, sorry, I'm interested in UFOs, not UAPs. Better move along to the next question. I think somebody's goofing there. Let me ask you about another focus of UFO research, and that is abductions.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets to be pretty controversial, pretty dicey.
Yeah.
Obviously, it goes to follow that if UFOs are ET, it's always possible they came in contact with Earthlings. It's always possible one of these cases involves something related to a real UFO or UAP.
Mm-hmm.
Does NARCAP get involved in that kind of research?
No. Dr. Haines has had an interest in it over his career, but as it's not we follow pilot testimony. Wherever that leads is where we go. And interestingly enough, we have one or two cases involving missing time, aircraft returning with more gas than they should have, and after having been in the air longer than they were thought to be or planned to be. And the jury's out on what exactly happened. But those are fairly rare. We tend to have more common aviation cases with observations and incidents involving objects, but not necessarily the crew effects being more medical than anything, night blindness, that kind of stuff, versus being abducted per se.
Okay, so your focus obviously is on aviation-related sightings. For those who call you up or write you or something and say, hey, I saw something in my car or while walking in the street or something, or in my backyard, where do you send them?
Well, and first off, it kind of depends on where all that is. If they're near an aviation facility, we might dig a little deeper, see if there's any reports coming out of there, or even reach out with a FOIA request if it looks like it might be promising. I usually send them to MUFON or NUFORC to make reports, so that the data itself doesn't get lost.
Let's talk about your ongoing research. What programs, in addition to working with the authorities in Chile and the people in France, what projects are you engaged in now that you feel might bring some fruit to your investigation?
Well, part of it is the participation with these teams. We have a GPAN, the French team, is holding a closed workshop next month, and we submitted a paper for their approval, which we did receive, and now we get to present that at their workshop. So participating in the global discussion around this is really, really important. And as an administrator of the organization, I don't run the science. I'm the team administrator. I think it's very important for us to develop these relationships and to focus a lot on what makes science move in the larger culture versus particular science projects. I'm working on some papers right now that are kind of addressing this idea that more needs to be done at a global level, and to try and address the questions around the extraterrestrial hypothesis, because all of these organizations, whether it's the French or the Chileans or the Argentinians, the Peruvians, and even us, are constantly assailed with this question of, do you think they're ET? And we need an answer for that. The world needs an answer for that. So we're working a bit on how to make a proper statement there that might be of some help and further the conversation. So those are just some of the things on the table that we're kicking around right now.
What portion of sightings you encounter are indicative of possible test aircraft of some sort?
Well, I couldn't give you a percentage of cases, but I will say that whenever we come across a case that might involve national security, we drop it like a hot potato. And generally speaking, that's handled by Dr. Haines and his research group. I don't know how many cases he's just ducked, but there's been a couple that we just flat said no further.
Okay, the corollary question then is, do you think some of the high-profile UFO cases might have involved test aircraft? I'm thinking as far back as Roswell, Was it a mogul balloon? Was it a test aircraft that crashed? And people 30 years later maybe expanded the memories? It's a question I'm going to leave for you to answer in our final segment. We've got Ted Roe. He's executive director of NARCAP. If you go to NARCAP, NARCAP.org, you'll learn more about the organization. And Ted also drops into the Paracast forums from time to time. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
The nation's largest independently owned and operated talk radio network. The Genesis Communications Network. GCN.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
The best free fuel stoves on the market for disasters and survival are Silverfire. Its Clean Cook stove technology allows you to pasteurize emergency drinking water, cook a meal, or sanitize your cookware with just twigs. A U.S. veteran-owned company, Silverfire's mission is emergency and recreation cooking products made of quality stainless steel. Silverfire's wide line of indoor and outdoor models range from solo backpack models to large family units. Cook cleanly and for free. Get yours today at silverfire.us. That's silverfire.us.
Harvest Right is the world's first in-home freeze dryer. Freeze dry your own fruits, vegetables, meats, and full meals. With Harvest Right, you can prepare foods that last 25 years, preserving its freshness, nutrition, color, and taste. All your food can be freeze-dried. So don't throw away your leftovers. Freeze dry them with this incredible in-home money-saving freeze dryer. Go to harvestright.com to see how the Harvest Right freeze dryer works. That's harvestright.com.
We all know that Berkey Water Purification Systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 6 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey Water Filtration Systems. The Berkey Light Systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light System today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $231, and the Berkey Guy will ship your order free of charge. With the purchase of a Berkey Light, the Berkey Guy is also offering a set of fluoride and arsenic filters for only $39.99. That's over 30% off the retail price. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at goberkey.com. That's goberkey.com today.
I'm Kay Swirling from KSCO Radio in Santa Cruz. I'm 93 years old, and I'm a big fan of Alex Jones because he has the courage to speak his mind more than just about anyone I know. Alex is just as bothered as I am about all the advertising you hear for toxic prescription drugs that make you sicker, not healthy. I prefer to give my body all 90 essential nutrients it needs for life to prevent disease, not compound it. My favorite complete supplement is Beyond Tangy Tangerine from Youngevity, which I take every day along with EFA Plus and Beyond OsteoFX. I recommend you go online to InfoWarsTeam.com to purchase these products and make them part of your daily regimen to get healthy and live longer. InfoWarsTeam.com.
Hello, this is Rosemary Ellen Guiley, and you're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Ted Roe of NARCAP joins us. He's executive director. And the question I posed to him, which is kind of related to whether they've received reports of possible test aircraft, what about some of these older classic cases like Roswell?
I don't think we're ever going to get a definitive answer on Roswell. The Air Force certainly hasn't provided adequate answers, and the research is starting to chase its tail now. So it's hard to be certain what's coming out of Roswell. They offered that it was a mobile test array, but the dates aren't right. The idea that UAP reports reflect either classified aircraft or maybe drones isn't lost on us. And we are doing studies on drones and drone lighting patterns and all kinds of things in order to be able to determine a drone from a UAP. I think it's possible. I read a study a while back suggesting that maybe Kenneth Arnold's original sighting near Mount Rainier back in the 40s that kind of started the whole media fury around UFOs might have reflected a test flight of German Horten aircraft that were sort of moon-shaped or flying wing kind of aircraft. So I do think there's a potential for some of these cases. At the same time, you have cases where UAP manifest directly over facilities like O'Hare, or they show up over cities, this kind of stuff, which doesn't seem very prudent for black projects to be doing, but unless it's psyops of some kind.
What do you think about government disinformation, the feeling that some of the information being followed in the UFO field itself is actually placed there just to confuse everybody?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. If nothing else, it's a fascinating laboratory to work on memes and this kind of stuff. I would think the intelligence community would be dabbling more active in it just for the exercise of it. I do think that there are a lot of people looking for conspiracies, and a lot of folks who are seeing aliens behind every tree and under every rock. And I think at some point you have to get that under control and really consider what your government is and what it does. Look at how it acts in the world. Look at the competence it brings to the other activities that it engages, and then ask yourself if it's really capable of handling something as delicate as this in that fashion. I do think that there's probably some disinformation involved. I don't know the reasoning behind it all because I don't know the government story in it all. But that's why I tend to go back to the data itself and just say, just look at the cases, do the work, treat it like you treat any other study, and don't extrapolate too much, and just let the data stack up. And you can recreate pretty much whatever's known in the private sphere in the public domain, because it happens in front of everybody. So
let me ask you a crazy hypothetical question you may not want to answer. A certain multimillionaire who owns a lot of hotels and has been involved in the paranormal field with grants like to MUFON. If he went to NARCAP, and maybe he's done it already and you won't tell us, but if he came to NARCAP and said, look, here's $5 million, what would you do? How would you handle it?
Well, in my experience, that personality doesn't come without strings attached. And generally speaking, every time I've seen that personality go into that mode, the strings attached are unacceptable. And I would say no. And I've said no in the past.
Has he come to you, the one we're talking about?
Yeah, for various reasons. He has an interest in buying up researcher files and this kind of stuff. And I put a strong no vote on all those activities.
How closely do you work with other organizations exploring UAP, UFOs, etc.? You mentioned, for example, MUFON as an alternative for reporting sightings that aren't the ones that you will particularly cover. Right.
It just depends. Sometimes we'll help with an aviation case. For example, the Merlin C-26 case out of Mexico that had everybody all excited with orange balls of light near the airplane, all of that. We were approached rather quickly with data on that to offer a second opinion. And once we got a hold of the manufacturer of the infrared system, and we had the azimuth and the heading and the altitude of the aircraft, we were able to determine fairly conclusively that it had detected oil flares on oil rigs. at a distance. And even so, the case won't die. But that's been confirmed by other researchers as well. So we will work with people from time to time and not publish. It just depends on what the subject matter is and what kind of relationship we have with them.
Speaking of cases that don't pass muster or are conventional, are you exposed to many hoaxes at all? Do people come to you with stuff they know to be fake, hoping to fool NARCAP?
Well, so far we haven't had any cases that were manufactured out of whole cloth, but we did a fairly intensive study of the O'Hare matter, whereby a UAP allegedly manifested over C terminal at O'Hare for 25 minutes or so and was seen by a lot of people. And I handled the photographic evidence portion of that study, which isn't my strong suit, but fortunately there were literally no photographs submitted to me that were credible of the phenomenon at the time, and there were a number of them that were clearly not and were submitted to throw us off track, I would assume. And there was one in particular that I think it was David Biedny. Yeah, one of the guys at Above Top Secret did a study on a particularly promising picture, but it turned out to be a little too spooky for us to get behind. It didn't have it had some data markers in it that we couldn't resolve.
As to the case itself, what do you think?
Well, I think that something happened at O'Hare. I think it was seen and it was documented, described, and it was pretty much as described by the ramp controller and the various people on the ground. I don't think there was radar data that was conclusive out of it, and that's to be expected in these cases as well. I think it was a classic example of an incursion into a Class B restricted airspace by an unidentified, and nobody had a proper answer for dealing with it when it happened because nobody's been educated that it can happen. So there was more backdoor information out of that we couldn't publish, but we have contacts. We have some NASA officials on staff and at our as resources as well that implied that there were safety issues around that manifestation, but we don't. I don't have anything I can publish or speak about in public. But
okay, you've just whet our appetite, though, safety issues. But certainly the presence of any aircraft that's unknown, out of their control or purview, can present some kind of threat, can't it?
If you're on final approach and this thing's hovering off the edge of your runway, you don't know if it's going to move into your path of travel or not. And these things are unpredictable. Nobody knows what direction they're going. Just that when they go, they tend to go quickly. And it's not in control. So yeah, it's a hazard to aviation safety, pure and simple.
Ted Roe, we're just about out of time. Would you tell our listeners if they're interested in learning more about NARCAP, how do they get a hold of you?
Certainly, we can be reached at www.narcap.org. There's a contact us form in there if you're a pilot or an air controller or you want to talk to us. We also need volunteer help, both in administration as well as research. We can certainly use funders and funding help. We need to come up with a trip to Paris in about 5 weeks to get one of our team there for working with the French government team. So any help that any of your listeners can be, we welcome potential funders and volunteers, and we look forward to hearing from them.
That's narcap.org. We've linked it over at theparacast.com. And he's also participating in our forums at forum.theparacast.com, Ted Roe. You can find us on Twitter, where we're known as The Paracast. Look for The Paracast on Twitter. Look for since there are two of them, Paracast Fan Club on Facebook. And our own Chris O'Brien has his own site, OurStrangePlanet.com. He also has a new book out, Stalking the Herd, a definitive book on cattle mutilations. You can order a copy from his site. He'll autograph it for you. And, of course, he makes all the profit because it's not all going to Amazon. Ted Roe, thank you so much for joining us this week on the Paracast.
Thank you, Gene. It was a real pleasure.
The Paracast, featuring Gene Steinberg and Christopher O'Brien, is a copyrighted presentation of Making the Impossible Incorporated. Tune in next week for a new adventure in the Paracast.